Hey, did you hear about the podcast I started this year? Oh my gosh, let me tell you about it. Earlier this year, I was looking for something that I could do to make extra money. And I was looking for something that I'm good at, that I like to do. And God led me to this idea. So July 9th, God put this idea, I went, boop, it was right here. And he says, why don't you talk to other people about me and share it with the rest of the world? And I was like, oh, I love it. I love it. So I know nothing about podcasting, as most of us. And so I looked into, what do I do to get started? And God is guiding me every step of the way. He's leading me to the right people. Like, I work with this guy who used to have his own recording studio, and he worked with famous people, and he knows all of what I need to get started. And so I was able to get recommendations from him, and I shared my vision with somebody, and they saw my excitement, and they helped me reach my first financial goal. And with it, I was able to get 3 microphones. My friend from work was letting me borrow a couple of his until we were able to get our own. So I was able to get my own. And a lesson I learned from that is set my goal higher, because maybe they have more to give. So I upped the goal on Give, Send, Go. So, and if you go on to givesendgo.com, you can look up God's Goodness Podcast. And in it, we're collecting money, and it's going to go towards the goals. They're evolving. Earlier this week, I wanted to get some cameras and, well, a camera. But then my friend said, well, that's going to balloon into at least 2 or 3 cameras per person. Then you'll need lighting. Then you'll need, and then it went on. And I was like, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on getting the sound better, because he was letting me borrow microphones that I guess weren't really for podcasting, but they worked. So they got out the first 4 episodes with those. And then our 5th episode, we'll get to use the new microphones. And we're going to share about God's goodness, modern day miracles. We're going to be able to encourage people with this. It's going to be so cool. And I just can't wait to see what God does, because he's just laying everything into place. Just like the timing on the financial goal being made, and then being able to order the good microphones for when the interviews start. Because the first few episodes, it was about where the idea came from, a little bit about my husband Josh, a little bit about me, and then last episode we recorded was about the laying of hands. And so we have a bunch of miracles and testimonies from my husband praying over people and the power of God healing them with those words. And I was one of the people that got healed. 17 years of chronic neck and shoulder pain, gone forever. And then I hear all these stories like that at my church, and I just want to share them with people. And we have never-ending content at our church, and it's so good. And I want to bring it to you guys. And if you're able to, I would love to accept your gifts and sowing into this little ministry of ours. And then we can just spread the encouragement to others, and be blessings to more people. So hope you can come along for the journey. And if you want to listen to the podcast, it's on anywhere you hear a podcast. So if you have Pandora, Spotify, we're not on iTunes yet, but we're getting there. That was a little more complicated than the rest. But it's on, even if you look up Google Podcasts and then hit enter and then look up God's Goodness Podcast, and you'll find us and get to hear some of these inspiring stories and lessons that we've learned along the way, and hopefully you can be encouraged. I was almost done editing the captions and then realized I forgot to tell you about the rest of the vision besides the podcast. So along with the podcast comes an Etsy shop. So I set up an Etsy shop, and I'm working on learning about mock-ups and transparent backgrounds and SVG files, but we're going to have merch. And I'm going to connect that to Printify, and then people will be able to order from Printify, and then Printify the people will pay for their order. I'll pay Printify, and then Printify will ship the order and even the tracking information for us. and it'll be amazing. And we're going to set that up. And then one day we're going to also have the last credit card paid off, and we're going to have a camper, and we're going to travel the United States in a camper, and we're going to share our adventures in my regular Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and Instagram little channels. And then you can follow along with our adventures, because it can get pretty fun around here with 3 dogs and a 12-year-old son. It's a lot of energy. He likes to talk like his mom too, so he might be, on the podcast soon. But we just have a lot that can come from this, and I'm just baby steps, the compound effect, baby steps, big things. And just a little bit each day, and we'll get there. And, especially with donations too as well. So the next thing we need to work on is the location for where we do interviews, because I'm not sure if having people over at our house is going to be like quiet every time, because our dogs are very noisy sometimes. So that's the next thing we're working on. So pray for that and the financing, and just come along on our journey.